The Game Ball.
I am a golden god!
Alright, now it's time for me and Chris to give away our game balls. I guess I'll start. I'm going to start with Augustana wide receiver Tyler Schulte. Just an outstanding game. 6 catches, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. And more importantly, they came away with a victory, and he was a big part of it. So my game ball goes to Schulte.
My game ball this week goes to MSU punter Gerard DeWitt. He had 7 punts for an average of 41.1 yards. I'm just going to run down the list real quick. His first punt was for 44 yards. Second punt was 62 yards, and that pinned Northern Michigan inside the 10. 38-yard punt inside the 10. A 44-yard punt inside the 5, and he finished off the night with 36, 28, 36-yard punts respectively. That put Northern Michigan in very, very bad field position for the entire game and allowed MSU to actually come off with a 7-6 victory this year over Northern Michigan.
Alright, so now let's take a look at the Water Boy Award.
The Water Boy Award.
Oh no! I suck again!
Alright, now it's time for our Water Boy Awards. Chris, how about we start with you? Who did you think was the worst player or team in the NSIC this week?
Worst team this week is Minnesota State University's offensive line. You could have put in 5 200-pound college freshmen in there, and they would have done the same exact job that the MSU offensive line did this past week. The rushing performance was terrible, and that was because of the offensive line, and the passing performance was terrible because of MSU's offensive line. They need to get together if they want to have a good performance this weekend against Northern State.
Alright, my game ball is going to stick with MSU. I'm going to give it to Patient. I don't care how bad your offensive line is. When you go 3 for 14 for 32 yards and an interception, it doesn't really matter how bad your offensive line is. That's just horrible accuracy. Granted, the weather conditions weren't great, but it's not like the Northern Michigan quarterback had this sort of problem. My Waterboy Award, definitely going to Patient. So now it's time to move on to our Unnecessary Roughness segment.
Unnecessary Roughness.
See that? That's your IQ, buddy. 0.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard.
Alright, it's time for Unnecessary Roughness, where we take a look at the ugly side of football, and one of the big subjects that really looks ugly right now in the NSIC is the St. Cloud State football program, and not really so much the football program itself, but the university. Right now, St. Cloud State is looking at the possibility of being put on the chopping block. Should St. Cloud State feel ashamed that its football program could be cut, despite it being a good program?
Absolutely, they need to be ashamed. Basically, what it comes down to with these cuts is the forecast for fiscal year 2012 in the state of Minnesota. And everybody's getting cuts. All the big universities are getting cuts. And now that St. Cloud State finally realized that they had to start making cuts and were ill-prepared for this, they're looking at drastic measures, and the football program's one of them. Of course they should be ashamed.
Now, there was one thing about this that sort of rubbed me the wrong way with the way the president, Potter, sort of came out about this. Is this a charade by the university to just boost donations? Or do you think the football program could possibly be cut from the SCSU program?
Actually, I think it's both. SCSU is known to have great donors for their Division I hockey program. Not much else besides that. So it could be a charade to actually get more fundraising in for the football program. But it is absolutely a serious threat. They need to make drastic cuts now because of the lack of preparation for this. Other teams in the NSIC are cutting their programs too. Minnesota State's cutting their men's and women's swimming and diving program and their women's bowling program. But they made those cuts in preparation 2 years in advance for this entire thing. SCSU ill-prepared, and it's unfortunate that we're talking about this.
Alright, thank you, Chris. I know it's great to have your insight on this since you were an active member in MSU. Now to move on from this ugly, bleak side of football, let's take a look at the conference honors.
conference honors.
He's got to be pleased with that. The crowd is just on its feet here.
Alright, now it's time to take a look at our NSIC Players of the Week. Let's start with football. On the offensive side, Fred Williams, wide receiver for St. Cloud State, with 12 catches, 236 yards, and 1 touchdown in a losing effort against Augustana. He gets Offensive Player of the Week. Defensive Player of the Week went to linebacker Ryan Isaacson for Augustana. He recorded 13 tackles, a sack, and a blocked PAT. Special Teams Player of the Week went to Gerard DeWitt, punter for MSU. He had 7 punts for a 41.1 yard average and put 5 punts inside the 20-yard line. Now let's take a look at our NSIC Players of the Week for soccer. Offensive Player of the Week went to Ashley Ellefson, a forward for Bemidji State. In 2 wins, she scored 2 goals for the Beavers. Defensive Player of the Week went to Annabelle Petio, the goalie for Winona State, as she only gave up 1 goal and 8 saves versus Grand Valley State and gave up no goals with 12 saves against Ferris State. Taking a look at NSIC Volleyball, their Players of the Week. Offensive Player of the Week went to Devin Diedrich, a middle blocker for Southwest Minnesota State. She recorded 51 kills in a 3-match weekend. NSIC Defensive Player of the Week went to Shannon McGowan. She recorded 98 digs in 4 matches, going 3-1 in those matches in the Northern Michigan tournament. And NSIC Setter of the Week went to Elena Isaka. Isaka picked up 168 assists and guided UM-Duluth to a 4-0 weekend, including a 3-1 win over number 12 Emporia State. So a great showing for those 3 players in NSIC Volleyball.
The top 25.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, you betcha, yeah. Yeah.
Alright, first taking a look at the AFCA Top 25. UM-Duluth jumps from number 3 to number 2 this week. Minnesota State-Mankato stays at the number 18 spot after their win over Northern Michigan. Winona State jumps from number 24 to number 19. Wayne State College jumps from number 25 to number 22. And also of note, Augustana and Bemidji State receiving votes. In the Division2.com Top 25 poll, UM-Duluth also jumps from number 3 to number 2. Winona State jumps from number 24 to number 22. And MSU cracks into the top 25 at number 24. Now let's take a look at the game plan.
The game plan.
Without disappointment, you can't appreciate victory.
We lack discipline. This is the setting for the greatest story ever told.
Alright, first we'll take a look at NSIC football on Saturday. First, Augustana travels to Bemidji State for a big interdivision battle. Then we have Minnesota State traveling to Northern State. UM-Duluth will be playing at Upper Iowa. Minnesota Crookston will be traveling at Wayne State College. Minnesota State-Moorhead will be playing at Wayne State. Southwest Minnesota State will be playing at Mary, and St. Cloud State will be at Concordia-St. Paul. Chris, just curious, but what do you think will be the best game out of all these this weekend?
Well, the best game on paper definitely looks like Augustana traveling to Bemidji State. Bemidji State has a very tough program up there. They tend to bring teams right down to the wire. And Augustana's riding some pretty great momentum. It's going to be fun to watch.
I was going to say the same thing, but now that I think about it, I think St. Cloud State at Concordia-St. Paul could be an interesting one. I think St. Cloud State will win that game, but for some reason, something tells me Concordia-St. Paul will compete in that game. I don't think they'll go down easily in that game. That's all I'm going to say. Now just looking at women's soccer coming up this weekend, Regis will be at Minnesota State, and Metro State will be at Winona State for a couple big NSIC soccer games this week. Taking a look at volleyball, number 1 Concordia-St. Paul plays at the Metro State Regis Premier. They play number 25 West Florida in their second match. Number 10 Southwest Minnesota State also plays in the Premier. They play number 16 West Texas A&M in their first match, and number 12 Metro State in their second match. And then finally number 19 Wayne State also playing in the Premier Challenge. They play number 6 St. Leo in their first match. So a lot of great NSIC matchups in volleyball this week and soccer, and not very many so much in football this week, but we do have a couple pretty good ones. So Chris, I'd like to thank you for being on the show this week. It was great having you on, and I'm glad you were able to make it on the show.
Thanks, Adam. I had a great time. Hope to make it back sometime soon.
And thank you for listening to this week's NSIC Sports and More show. Join us next week when we'll have more NSIC action.